Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my family by talking about the things they said to me? I'm 16M, the baby of the family, and I also have ADHD. Pretty bad ADHD too. Didn't get diagnosed until I was 11 though, because my parents don't like diagnoses like that. They don't really believe in them. They also believe you just need to punish the inattentive hyperactive behavior of kids like me. My siblings are 3 to 9 years older than me. None of them have any mental or behavioral health issues. They're like our parents for not being understanding too. When I was younger, I was in hell. I couldn't be still. I couldn't focus on shit. I could not keep track of time or things at all. No matter how hard I tried, I was always failing or making people mad. And my family were the worst of all. When I was 5, I got left behind at home while my parents went to the Christmas fair. They didn't realize for an hour and came back. I'd moved around so much instead of going to the car because I was struggling to stay still or focused on the task. I was grounded for a week and had everything taken off of me. I ended up tearing up my room and got punished for a month with nothing, and in that time I ended up so jittery and struggling. My parents just yelled at me and my siblings mocked me and yelled too for being weird. Every time I got a report card, my parents would bring my siblings ramen, my favorite food, and make me watch everyone, but I got some as a punishment for my bad grades. One time I was running around the yard like crazy because I was so hyper. I was maybe 7. 2 of my sisters called me a R-word slur and told me to go fucking die instead of making their friends see that. The R-word was used a lot toward me by my siblings. My parents and siblings always said I'd never amount to anything and I was destined for prison or homelessness. My parents told me I couldn't even get good grades in kindergarten. My parents ignored many requests from the school to look into why I struggled. It took until this amazing teacher when I was 11, who annoyed my parents so much they gave in and got me evaluated. ADHD diagnosis happened immediately. I was one of the worst cases. They said no to meds. Had to talk to a hospital social worker and change their minds. The initial meds process was rough, and they were shitty to me even then, saying meds couldn't even fix me. I still talk to that teacher. She's amazing. My favorite teacher in the world. Love her. I've been back to in-person school for 2 years, and my grades have improved a lot because of a program my school runs. I'm now getting BS and CS instead of D and FS. My best friend's family took me out to celebrate, and during that, we talked about my family and I told them everything. None of them expected it to be that bad. Maybe a little unsupportive, but not to that level. They shamed my parents for it afterward, and my parents were furious that I talked about it. They said I went out of my way to embarrass the whole family. Am I the a-hole? Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I'll stop talking in therapy if he changes therapists? I'm 15M, in therapy with my dad, 43. We started going back in April, and it's been okay, I guess. I got some stuff off my chest and dad did too. We made some progress, but my dad isn't liking the progress, and he doesn't like the therapist anymore. The reason we're in therapy is our stepfamily. Dad doesn't like how I handled becoming one, and he doesn't like that I'm not open to being a more TV-style perfect family. Kinda like Hallmark. He wants us to be like we're a regular bio family, and he doesn't like that it's different for me, and that I treat his wife like a family member but not a parent, or that I don't see my step and half siblings as just siblings, but I see them as steps and halves. And after 5 years of him being married, he wanted to fix stuff. The reasons for therapy: 1. The fact I won't invite his wife to do Mother's Day things with me, and the fact I try to get out of celebrating with her on Mother's Day every year. I know she's a mom, but she's not mine. I'm a member of the Dead Moms Club, so for me Mother's Day is weird, but also I don't like the idea of celebrating his wife like she's my mom. 2. That if I'm asked to write in my parents' names, I'll typically only write his. If it's for something where it's not about contacting someone, I'll put him and mom down. 3. I don't go to his wife for stuff the way I will for him. I'll spend time with her without complaining, and I will help her out if she asks. But if I want a parent's advice or whatever, I go to him and never her. 4. I don't ever just say my step and half siblings are my siblings. I'll tell people I have step and half siblings. 5. I'm not super close to my step and half siblings. We get along fine. But he said I used to really want a sibling when I was younger, and now I have them and don't do the stuff I used to say I would. 6. I didn't want a photo of the step family added to the last page of my childhood years book that I get when I turn 18. Dad said in therapy he wants and feels it's best if I accept the step family as just family and let his wife be another parent in my life, not just a family member. The therapist has told him that it's okay to want things to be a certain way, but he has to understand he can't force it. She asked me if there were any compromises I'd be willing to make. I said I wouldn't complain about Mother's Day if I just joined them for breakfast and was then excused. My dad has really disliked being told he can want but can't force something. He pushes back on the therapist a lot with that and refuses solo sessions. Now he told me he feels we should find a better therapist. I don't want that, and I told him. I said he doesn't get to find someone who'll just agree with everything he says. He told me we can't fix things with this therapist. I told him I wouldn't talk anymore if he changed therapists. He told me therapy only works if we try. I said I know. He told me to be less petulant about this. Am I the a-hole? Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay half of the cost of my daughter's daycare expenses? My daughter is currently in kindergarten and goes to school in the school district her dad resides in. Her dad was insistent on putting her in school there and enrolled her in his district. I had a family member who was going to take my daughter to and from school for me while I worked, but that changed last minute. I tried to talk my daughter's dad into enrolling her in the district I live in, as he is the only person who lives in that district, approximately 20 minutes away from me, and all of his family who could help him get her to and from school live here as well, but it became a huge argument. And so because it was so last minute, I just took the fall, and his parents said we'll see this backfire on him, and maybe we can choose the district I live in next school year. We both had to utilize the before and after school daycare services that the school offers due to our work schedule. Her school doesn't have after-school programs until the kids hit 3rd grade, so younger children have to use a daycare-like program which is not free and is billed weekly. Since her father and I both use the services in equal amount, we share 50-50 custody, we split the cost in half, and pick her up and drop her off on our respective days. I am due to have another baby at the beginning of December, but due to complications, I was pulled from work early and went on early leave. Now I am no longer in need of the before and after school program and can take my daughter to school at normal times, and offered to pick her up from school on his days at normal pickup, but I cannot wake up on his days with her to pick her up and take her to school, so he will still need to utilize the before school program. He said that was great and appreciated the help, and since payments are due on Mondays, which are my days with her, he will just send his half of the cost on the weekends so I can add my half to the envelope and turn it in when I bring her to school. I asked him what he meant by my half and said I would not be contributing as I no longer needed the services, and I tried to enroll her in the district in my city to prevent us from having to pay for the daycare, but he didn't want me to. He said she is just as much my child and I'm still responsible for the half even if I'm not using it on my days, but I disagree. He called me difficult and an a-hole and said I'm just trying to make his life harder. His parents agreed with me and said that he should be responsible as he is the only one who needs the services now, and this could have been prevented if he just agreed to enroll our daughter in the district that I live in as well as all of his family. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My daughter's school offers a before and after school program that you can pay for, and my daughter's dad and I were using it and splitting the cost, but now I no longer need it, but he expects me to still pay half even though he's the only one using it, but I refuse since I don't have use for the program anymore. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for the road I would use if built? Straight to the story. A developer in our area went bust, and plots behind and next to my land were for sale for a good price. Suddenly, I had new potential neighbors. One day a guy appeared on my land, introduced himself, and told me that he had bought the land behind mine and asked if I would agree to allow them to build a road on the border of my land. As the person who owns the land next to me don't want it to go in the middle of his land, but he would agree to have it on the border of our two lands, as he could also use the same road as his driveway. I agreed and told him that sure, the only condition is that I can also use the road if I need to access that side of my land if I need for whatever reason. So he has to do all the paperwork, and when everything is ready we can make it official. We exchanged contacts and everything seemed to be great. A few days ago I got an email with an attachment with plans and everything and costs divided to 3, assuming that everyone including me will pay 1/3. The future neighbor next to me replied that he would only cover part of the cost of what he would use, as he would only use half of it. I replied to his email with something like, I am sorry if there was a misunderstanding, but I will not pay for the road, because I don't need that road. I will allow you to build it and my only condition is that I can use it if I need it. That means that the person next to me would have to cover 25%, and the rest is the guy who is behind us. The guy called me and was mad at me, that I was selfish and greedy, and that I expected to use something that others built and it would be so expensive for him. I am a jerk. He did not exactly use the word a-hole, but am I the a-hole? Edit info. I would allow it because in my country the owner of landlocked land can go to court, and this is usually the solution anyway. A road on the border of the other lands. It is not a legal question though. I asked if I am an a-hole for not paying for it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to ask my grandparents to help my parents and siblings financially? I've, 16M, lived with my grandparents for the last 2 years. They won custody over me after my parents left the state with my siblings for 3 nights, but forgot me, and when they remembered I wasn't with them they called me and said they would waste their time coming back to get me. This was not the first time this happened. My grandparents had documented several incidents of this happening, and they had called CPS on my parents for stuff like this before. So my grandparents won custody over me and I moved in with them. I'm in therapy with my parents. Unfortunately, it's court-ordered and the judge won't let it end until I'm 18. So I still have one day every week where I see them for about an hour. I don't see my siblings anymore. Some other background info before getting to the point, so you'll see why this is a big deal. I'm the middle child and got the stereotypical deal of being looked over a lot and ignored more than my older or younger siblings. My siblings joked about me being unloved a lot, and they'd say things were better without me there, and how they knew nobody ever noticed me missing stuff until the end. My younger siblings would always call me gay and girly as an insult. My older siblings would say our parents were forced to adopt me, and that's why they always forgot me and didn't love me. My parents never said a thing when my siblings would say stuff like that in front of me. My parents never remembered my favorite food, my birthday, gifts for Christmas, my PT conferences, and all kinds of stuff. They never forgot those things for my siblings. Whenever we spent time with extended family, my parents would bring up this funny story about leaving me in the cart at the supermarket when I was a baby and driving away before someone reminded them about me. I was 10 weeks old. My parents used to complain if anyone in our family gave me gifts that looked bigger or more expensive than what they gave my siblings. So anyway, I live with my grandparents now, and I'm way happier. My grandparents told me they'd help me through college or a trade or whatever I wanted to do after high school, and they spoiled me, which my parents and siblings know about and hate. My parents got into financial issues about a month ago and asked my grandparents for a loan. My grandparents said no and refused to help them. They also refused to send anything to help my siblings. At my therapy appointment 2 weeks ago, my parents asked me to speak to my grandparents and ask them to help. I said no and I followed through. My parents brought it up again at the next appointment, and when I said I hadn't asked, they called me selfish, and they told me I should care more about my younger siblings and doing good by them. They told me I was willing to let them suffer because I was ignored, but I was never in the bad situation they are. Am I the a-hole?